In honor of Black History Month, we discuss the Atlantic City contribution to jazz and R&B, and we welcome the Gloucester County NAACP to discuss how they remain focused on defending civil rights, advocacy, and developing leaders of tomorrow. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose to get lost in the woods to gain experience in forest management.
Choose to travel through time to understand the past.
Choose to soar to pursue a career in dance.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University. Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, healthcare you can believe in. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas. Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. February is Black History Month, and to discuss a piece of Black history here in Atlantic City is Henrietta Wallace Shelton. She's with the Chicken Bone Historical Foundation. Henrietta, welcome back to Latino Motion.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me.
So I know we've discussed the Chicken Bone Beach Foundation in the past, and it's been 20 years that you've been in charge of that organization. Tell me a little bit about the history of that organization.
Okay. We started, like I said, 20 years ago. I went to Martha Vineyards, and there's a beach called Inkwell, and met a family actually was creating T-shirts. I came back home, and my brother Gene Wallace had men's stores, and I talked him into let's start something on Chicken Bone Beach. So we purchased T-shirts and started doing, different things with the T-shirts. And then finally, my sister, who have also an organization in Camden, had met Donald Byrd, and they was doing a jazz for youth study. So I decided to also bring the jazz down to Atlantic City. I love jazz, always have. And so we made a proposal, and then we brought in jazz at 2000. We brought in raw airs on the beach, and it went very, very well. And then we decided to stick with jazz because jazz attract a diverse group of people.
There's also a little bit of piece of history here in Atlantic City, yes. And just the fact that you called it the Chicken Bone Beach Foundation has a little basis of history.
Yes, because there's a beach in Atlantic City on Missouri Avenue. In fact, it's right in front of Caesars. We have a beautiful sign, thanks to Mayor Gardner, on the boardwalk, talking with pictures of Chicken Bone Beach. Back in the day when Atlantic City was wide open, Kentucky Avenue, the entertainers, Atlantic City also was a city that was socially restricted. And I guess around 1928, 30, I have actually 6 or 7 letters from politicians trying to figure out, as the tourists, white tourists start becoming more prominent in Atlantic City, they didn't like the freedom that the blacks had on the boardwalk and on the beach. So they came up with, they actually made a black captain on Missouri Avenue Beach, and that became, and they actually threatened, in one of the letters they actually threatened if the people didn't go to this beach, then they was going to start hiring white help.
So and it was almost segregation, yes. On the beach, so
yes.
to speak.
Yeah, and Atlantic City, it was just in front of the hotels. Blacks could go any place else, but they didn't want to mingle with the guests. And Atlantic City had a middle-income crowd that came in, lower middle-income white that came in to Atlantic City. They were never really large, rich people. So anyway, make a long story short, people came to the beach, and the hotels and the restaurants didn't welcome them, so they brought in bus trips, too, of people bringing food. And the locals, of course, could bring a peanut butter sandwich all day long on the beach. But when you came on the bus,
It was the chicken. You didn't buy food at the beach, right?
right, no, you didn't. But the people on the bus would bring chicken because they were there all day long, and chicken would last all day long.
During this time period, there was also jazz was also very popular.
Very popular in
and
Atlantic City,
there was a
yeah.
strip in Atlantic City
Exactly.
catering to jazz.
Yes, which Kentucky Avenue, have pictures of Louis Armstrong, Sarah Vaughan. All the jazz artists came to Atlantic City. Atlantic City, believe it or not, was just as famous as New York. You know, you should see the entertainers that came to Atlantic City. I have the pictures in Club Harlem. I remember Ahmad Jamar was in the Wonder Garden. Atlantic City was wide open during those days. And
Because we want to talk about some of the things you're doing to continue some of that tradition.
yes,
We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. I'm once again here with Henrietta Wallace Shelton with the Chicken Bone Beach Historical Foundation to discuss their winter and spring concert series and jazz. And before we do, I know you want to read that mission statement because it's so important to you.
Exactly. The mission statement for Chicken Bone Beach Historical Foundation to create pride in our Black heritage and promote family values and unity in Atlantic County through the education of our youth, the community, and tourists, by teaching them African American history during the era of Chicken Bone Beach and expose them to the original art form of jazz.
And you're doing that. And you're
doing
doing that in a big way. Let's talk about this winter spring jazz series that you were kicking off.
We're so excited. We're in the Claridge Hotel, and we're in the beautiful club. The Claridge is a beautiful hotel. It's like the Rowan 20s, the way they have decorated it. But every second and fourth Friday, we're having jazz in the club. And the first one is Nat Atlee Trio. Nat Atlee Jr., we're excited about him. He used to be the music director for Luther Vandross. Now he come in and playing jazz for us. You should see him. He actually dances while he playing the piano. He said he does it, but I told him I have pictures to show him. And then Aaron Graves Trio from Philadelphia. He's a phenomenal piano player. And Citron, everybody knows Citron. It's Citron with Latin jazz. And then Tony DeLuca. He's from Brigantine, Tony is. And I also think he worked at Stockton. Keith Hollis is a local drummer. Steve Kane, beautiful voice. Steve is really good. He's coming in. And you know, Teddy Royal have been around Atlantic City a long time. This guy is more famous than I realized. He actually played with Fats Domino. They flying him now to New Orleans to actually do a tribute with Fat Dominoes, and he's going to back up Paul McCarthy, but he's going to come in and do a little blues and jazz for him. I'm really excited. He's a guitar player.
So we'll put the information up for that concert series. It's important to get that support. And you also had the pleasure of being donated a house, and I know you're doing some work with the youth. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we have a jazz camp that we have for the last 16 years. We do it 3 weeks. Normally it's in the summertime. The last 2 years we've been doing maybe winter, fall. Like we did 2 really fantastic at the MLK and Sovereign Avenue. We brought in a group called Arts for Kids and gave the whole auditorium a jazz for camp type of entertainment for the kids, giving them a history of jazz. Now, we were donated this house. It's right in the west side of Atlantic City. We're in the process now. We have collected $34,000. That's grant and then private money. But we need $200,000 to renovate the house. It's going to be Chicken Bone Beef Youth Institute of Jazz Study. Now, instead of having 3 weeks of jazz camp, we're going to have a whole year-round jazz camp and art. And you know, it's surrounded by a park that's unkept. It's called Weeks Park. We're going to get money. We're going to bring the neighborhood to help us, and the area needs to be. We're going to change the whole vibe of that neighborhood, as well as.
You're looking for support and help in this project, so we'll put that information if anyone is interested in participating or learning more about those jazz sessions.
Please
they could
do.
certainly be in contact with you.
Appreciate it.
Henrietta, thank you for sharing this information with our audience, and please stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. When we talk about Atlantic City's contribution to jazz and R&B, one person that can speak to this is a local entertainer, Angela Burton, who holds the keys to the city. Angela, welcome to Latino Motion.
Thanks for having me.
And I know you're very proud of the fact that you do hold the keys to the city, and there's a good reason for that. You're a legend in Atlantic City as far as its entertainment. Tell me a little bit about your history, particularly with the Kentucky Avenue and the heyday of Atlantic City.
I am one of the artists that sang at the Club Harlem on Kentucky Avenue in Atlantic City. And I opened up for all the headliners there, such as Phyllis Hyman, Harold Melvin's Blue Notes, Russell Tompkins' Starlistics, Blue Magic, Delphonics. I can just go on and on. I opened up for all the celebrities there. Melvin Moore.
How was it during that time? I mean, it's certainly a lot different than it is today, but this was the hub down here in Atlantic City where black entertainers used to come and perform. It was a crowded place. Tell me how it felt.
It was fantastic, packed. Show night, it was called the Breakfast Show.
Okay.
And it was no food there, but it was great entertainment, and it'd be mobbed outside for people coming in to see the show. And I thank God that I was a part of that show.
And I'm sure everybody was dressed
Dressed
perfectly.
perfectly. Women, if it was cold, women had their minks on, gentlemen had their suits on and their hats.
And I know that you continue that tradition, and you're part of the Kentucky Avenue Renaissance. Tell me a little bit about that.
This year, August 11th, Steve Young, he is the president and founder of the Kentucky Avenue Renaissance. There will be a show, and I will be on that show for Kentucky Avenue Renaissance.
It's very fitting since
yes.
you've been there for such a long time.
Yes.
And you're also a recording artist. You do have a CD out as well. Tell me about the CD.
My CD is named Passion and Pain, and it's on Amazon, Spotify, iTunes, CD Baby. You can go online and get it, and you can listen to them on YouTube.
So it's mostly R&B flavor?
This is all R&B.
All right.
Yes.
Tell me about, you also have a performance coming up, be after this show airs, but tell me about the performance.
The show will be February the 23rd at Kelsey's in Atlantic City.
Oh, Kelsey's, it's a great place. Kelsey's, the food is just wonderful, and is black owned, and it's really part of establishing that history that exists there for a very long time.
Yes, it is. I love Kelsey's food. I love performing there, and I will be honoring celebrities this year. Russell Tompkins, the new Starlistics, will be honored. Harold Melvin's Blue Notes will be honored, and his daughter, Trudy. Harold Melvin's Blue Notes, Double Exposure will be honored. Norman Connors will be honored.
It's all great folks from the past,
Yes.
and certainly you're a legend, as I mentioned, in Atlantic City, and thank you so much for coming and talk a little bit about your experience there in Club Harlem and Atlantic City Renaissance. Thank you so much.
I thank you.
And please stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. 109 years ago, on February 12, 1909, the NAACP was formed, and it is the oldest civil rights organization, and it is still very much relevant today. Joining me is Yolanda Garcia Belecki with the Gloucester County NAACP to discuss today's NAACP. And as a Latina on the NAACP, it's not necessarily a new thing, is it?
No, thank you for having me. The NAACP was actually started by white people who were actually outraged at the injustices that African Americans faced in this country. And then they joined with African Americans and created the organization, and it's still very active today.
And obviously the long history of the NAACP and all of the work that famous members of the NAACP have done to fight for civil rights, it's still very relevant today. Tell me why.
Yes, it is still very relevant today. You know, just an example, given after the national election, presidential elections in 2016, we saw an uprise in racial tensions even at the high school level. And our chapter has been instrumental in being involved with the Gloucester County schools to have race relations ease up a little bit and have some dialogue between African American students and Latino students and white students and try to ease the tension. As a result, we developed the first high school chapter of the NAACP in the state of New Jersey at Gloucester County Institute of Technology, and we're going to open up a second one at Washington Township High School shortly.
And I know you have a pioneer in civil rights, and that's Loretta Winters, who was sure in the forefront of those type of events.
Absolutely. Loretta is an amazing human being, but what I love about her is that she has a peaceful way of resolving, difficult subjects and difficult problems that arise as a result of racial tension. And because she is that way, she does garner a lot of a strong reputation and is able to deal even with politicians and draw them in and bring different people to the table to have a discussion.
Let's talk a little bit about a committee that you're involved with, totally still involved with civil rights and equity, and that's immigration. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I'm an immigration attorney. I work with the law firm of Helmer, Conley, and Castleman. And immigration is a topic today, a very important topic, because after this presidential election in 2016, the president sought to start ramping up immigration arrests for people who were just living normal lives, not necessarily having a criminal background. And we believe is based on a racial basis. Actually, the national NAACP just sued the president and the Department of Homeland Security for his racial comments about the Haitians who are now, their TPS is ending in 2019. And his comments were based on the color of their skin. And you remember the comments that he made about African countries or African American countries.
Certainly very important, and we see this ramping up. There's some legislation that we're hoping there's some hope for the dreamers. What's your take on that?
I'm hoping that my dreamers do get a path to citizenship, not just protection, deferred status, but I'm hoping that Congress is now in debates this week, and I'm hoping that they do come up with a plan to give protection and a path to citizenship for the more than 800,000 youth, young adults, most of them, who are in our country, who are productive citizens, who are earning degrees, who are working, who deserve the right to have a path to citizenship.
And you mentioned the youth, and that's a very important topic for the NAACP, and certainly grooming some future leaders. We want to talk about that. We want to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. I'm back with Yolanda Garcia-Belecki with the Gloucester County NAACP to discuss their focus on advocacy and the importance of engaging the youth for leaders of tomorrow.
Absolutely.
It's so vital that we get those youth involved, but tell me some of the work that you're doing to ensure that happens.
So our organization is also involved, has a committee, or a part of our organization is called ACTSO, A-C-T-S-O, and that involves a youth. It is an Olympic of the mind, so to speak. It's developing future leaders, and they participate in activities and competitions during the year throughout the state, and then eventually they get to compete at a national level with the other chapters. And it deals with topics such as technology, communication, African Americanism, culturalism, and science, which is really amazing. So we'd like to see our STEM students also involved in this type of competition, and they actually win scholarship money and awards, so it's really neat.
You mentioned some of the issues that your chapter faced with racial tensions. How important is it for youth to be able to deal with those racial tensions?
It's important that they know how to have a dialogue, a peaceful way of having a dialogue, and I think that our president exemplifies that well. And so we actually have students that come to our meetings, and they're involved in the many different things that we do during the year, but also equipping them with the ability to be able to come to a peaceful resolution.
I know your Vice President, Wilfredo Rojas, also another Latino involved with the NAACP chapter, and you have many great leaders in that organization, very active. How do you reach the youth? We know that we have a membership that up in age. How do you get them to become members of the NAACP, and what benefit does it have for them?
Well, one of the greatest ways is to be actively involved in your community. So we do things like backpacks, offering backpacks to the community back to school. We do food drives during the year to help the needy during the holidays. We do the AXO chapter, which gets the youth involved really, really well. And just different functions during the year. We do fun things like a golf tournament. We involve the local police to also during the year, so they come out and help us. And by that, we draw in the youth and also our children who come to the meetings as well.
I know that's been a big issue, race relationships between community and police. And you also are very active in trying to engage police to make sure that you decrease those tensions.
Yes, we invite them to barbecue annually, actually. The prosecutor's office is involved, the Gloucester County Prosecutor's Office, and the local police departments. Their chiefs are also involved, very visible in the community. And I tell you, our president has a way of drawing all of these different components, not just them, also politicians who need to hear the issues that are current in our community right now. So we have congressmen, we have senators who are involved, and they know the issues, but we work together to try to resolve the issues.
So those partnerships are so important, and certainly Loretta Winters is just great at forming those partnerships. And all the members of your chapter are just great folks involved in the community. Thank you so much for sharing this with our audience. We're going to leave the show, and we're going to listen to Angela Burton. Thank you so much for joining us here on Latino Motion.
Choose to get lost in the woods to gain experience in forest management.
Choose to travel through time, to understand the past.
Choose to soar, to pursue a career in dance.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, healthcare you can believe in. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.